how we are defining what we're doing as a company and what we're doing for the protocol in order to ensure its long-term success. And so what I think about in terms of like what you can do in the context of what can we enable, we think less about finance. Finance is a part of it, but finance is just an application. More about what other people need, what other industries need. We think about what type of creative works can be enabled. Because when you talk about the problems that technology solves, when you're trying to design something, if you're designing something just simply for the sake of trying to basically create a solution in search of a problem, which is something that typically gets flung at the crypto crowd, and it's because what people are solving is something that is novel. Like, it needs to be something novel or else nobody's going to use it. And so what crypto actually uniquely solves in applying those properties of what crypto uniquely solves is something very valuable. So what I said with the creatives, for example, like in the industry that Apple tackled with education and creators, what was missing was the tools they needed in order to acclimate to the digital world. So they didn't have quite the easy tools to develop digital art. And so Apple was pushing into that audience, getting more tools built in that ecosystem to support those artists to do those things. And so from our standpoint, and what we think about what creators are having problems with today, this is where we get into some topics that are pretty contentious. But the topic of the way that AI art has damaged artists, in the sense that these models are basically being trained on artists' content that's been posted in like public websites and stuff. And these artists aren't being compensated for this training data. And then the art that gets produced by these machine learning models is something that is so derivative, but like so derivative of such a mass of different things that you can't uniquely link it to the original creators of those art pieces. And so by consequence, they also get no attribution. They get no reward, they get no attribution, and they didn't get to actually have any say in whether that data is being used to train. And so this is something that I focus on in the way that we're trying to promote Quilibrium's use and adoption, because one of the unique attributes of crypto in general is being able to have attributable ownership of data, the idea that you own your data and you control your data, but more specifically with a privacy-preserving protocol that you control who sees your data and who can have access to your data, and then compounding it a step further with the ability for decentralized compute to be able to perform things like machine learning on top of that data, that you, as an individual who's an artist, being able to contribute that into the training models, that the tagged data that associates it to you flows all the way through, such that when inference is run on that model, it attributes the ownership of the original data that was used for the production of that particular image, or that particular written work, or that particular song, that it flows back to the original creators, so that when that inference is run and is paid for, that the people involved as creators are getting a split. And so that is one of the most important things to think about when we're talking about what we're trying to do. What is unique? What is it that we are trying to accomplish that broadly others have not thought about? And it really comes down to the ability to combine, the ability to compose these like other broad concepts that are emerging in the industry, and do so in ways that are unique and novel and actually solve people's problems.